for week 16. We are out here. Let's go. We are in the fantasy football semifinals. If you're tuning in today, guys, and I'm telling you, we're going to have less people on this live stream than we've had on most of the Thursday live streams we've had this season, because it is hard to get to this point in the fantasy season and still be in it. But we are here. We have grinded to get here 1 week at a time, guys. 1 week at a time. It is fantasy football playoff time here. Let's go. All right, we're going to get to all the start sits tonight. We're going to get to especially all the Thursday night start sits. We are going to get to all the players in the game tonight. We're going to get to all of the takes. All right, let's start out with the first comment of the live. Puka Nacua, Chris Olave, Jalen Waddle, DJ Moore. Please pick two. Yeah, this is not an easy one. Jalen Waddle coming off a huge game, but no Tyreek Hill in that one. Tyreek Hill is going to be playing this week. I think Tyreek Hill is going to have a huge game. We got Chris Olave and Puka going tonight. Let's see where DJ Moore compares to these guys. I think you're going to want to start Waddle and Moore. Man, Puka versus Waddle is going to be close. I would play Olave over Puka. I think you go Olave and DJ Moore. I think I'd go Olave over Waddle. I have a feeling the projections won't like that. Let's pull this up. I would play Olave over Puka. Oh, man, and Waddle gets the Cowboys. Super close call. I think I'd go Olave here over Waddle and over Puka. But, yeah, I feel good about Puka tonight. I feel a little bit better about the floor for Chris Olave with no Michael Thomas still in the lineup. Olave obviously didn't play last week, but he's been really consistent. At least 12.5 points for Olave in five of his last 5 games. He's been over 16 points in 4 of his last 5 games. The dude is going to see over 20% of the targets tonight, hands down. See, I think I'd go Olave and DJ Moore here. I do really like DJ Moore. Would you start Kupp or Tay in PPR? It's Kupp. I'm not benching Kupp. We're here, guys. We're in the fantasy football semifinals. If you're listening to this, you got to start Cooper Kupp. You have to start Cooper Kupp. You got to start Corinne Williams too. But yeah, Kupp needs to be started. I think over Devontae Adams. We'll see if Walter agrees with me on this one. It doesn't seem like going to be in agreement here. I'm starting Kupp over Adams pretty easily, honestly. I'm going to trust my gut on this one. Cooper Kupp's back. How can you not start Cooper Kupp with how back he is? Back-to-back games, over 25 points here for Cooper Kupp. 3 straight games with 8 targets. He is not coming off the field. He's had almost 100% snap share in 3 straight games for Cooper Kupp. Start Cooper Kupp. All right, Kupp or Puka? Yes, Kupp over Puka. Start Monty or Achane. I'd go Achane. Stafford or Mayfield? Got to start Stafford tonight, I think, over Mayfield. Mayfield, I believe, kind of a tough matchup for Mayfield this week. Yeah, he gets the Jaguars. This is not a tough matchup for Mayfield. Stafford's matchup is definitely tougher. Stafford's been balling, though. I think I would go Stafford over Mayfield. No, Mayfield was the QB2 last week. Oh, man, Walter's got Mayfield ahead of Stafford here. It's a close one. Yeah, I kind of agree with this. The ceiling for Mayfield is arguably higher, but the floor is safer first. I would go Stafford. I go with the floor here in such a close projection. Start Higgins or Nacua. Man, that catch from T. Higgins last week, one of the best catches I've seen this season for sure. I think I'd probably go Nacua over T. Higgins. Oh, man. I'm just agreeing with Walter left and right already on this live. I would go Puka over T. Higgins. It's a good spot here for T against the Steelers. Tougher spot against the Saints tonight for Puka. Let's talk a little bit about this game, though. I would go Puka Nacua over T. Higgins. I think the floor for T. Higgins is still just so much lower than Puka Nacua's floor is. You can't bench Michael Pittman. It sounds like Michael Pittman's going to play this week. Miraculously, he had like 12.5 points in one quarter this past week. Unreal stuff there. But Olave is a great option tonight. I'm not playing him over Pittman, though. Yeah, with Pittman looking like he's going to play. Kyler versus Stafford. That one's pretty close, too. Let's go to the QB list here. Yeah, it's Kyler. It's Kyler over Stafford. The Saints defense has been pretty good. 9th best against quarterbacks this season. The Bears have been balling recently on defense, but still I don't think as scary as the Saints. Start 2, Rachaad White, Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara. Oh, gosh. That's a really tough one, too. I mean, you really can't bench Rachaad White, and you really can't bench Kupp or Kamara either. Let's do this one, actually. It's going to be Kupp, I think, that you bench. Yeah, you got to bench Cooper Kupp. You bench Cooper Kupp, you start Alvin Kamara and Rachaad White. That's going to be the only person I tell to bench Cooper Kupp tonight, but it makes sense if you have Rachaad White and Kamara. All right, let's get back to some of these start sits. Guys, here's my take for the game tonight really quickly. There's going to be some points scored tonight. Over-under of 45 points. I feels like the last few Thursday nights, we've been looking at over-unders in the 30s. We got an over-under of 45. 4-point underdog New Orleans Saints playing in LA against the Rams. I think the Rams win this game. I think the Rams score over 25 points in this game. From the Saints side, I trust Chris Olave. I trust Alvin Kamara. I trust basically nobody else. I don't have trust in Taysom Hill tonight. He definitely could have a role. Rashid Shaheed should stay involved with no Michael Thomas. Don't really have any trust in him either, though. Derek Carr, no thank you. He's been the king of inability of scoring touchdowns this season. Juwan Johnson, no thanks. Demarcus Robinson on the Rams side of the ball, no thanks. It's a pretty straightforward Thursday night. Feels like we have had some straightforward Thursday nights, which is good. Corinne Williams, easy, locked-in start. Guys, Corinne Williams, let me pull up these game logs for everyone on the YouTube live. The Corinne Williams game logs are mind-boggling. He's running back 2 this week, only behind the GOAT, Christian McCaffrey. And there's an argument, guys, that the role that Corinne Williams has is actually better than the role that Corinne Williams has, better than the role that Christian McCaffrey has. There's a good argument, guys. Corinne had 25 carries in back-to-back games. He's got 11 targets in his last 2 games. He's got like 70 opportunities, 70 touches almost in his last 2 games. The Saints are not a great opponent here, but workload-wise, hard to point to a better workload than what Corinne Williams has, and he's been great, man. He's produced with it. Pick 2 between Eckler, Puka, Devontae. Yeah, do not start Eckler. Here we are. We can't be starting Eckler. I mean, the game log for Eckler last week, I don't know how you've made it this far. I don't know how you've made it to the fantasy football semifinals with Eckler. That's how bad it was. He still managed to score 7.8 because of the receiving role. The receiving role is at least still there. He had a 19% target share, 6 targets, 4 catches. But this offense, man, is bad with Easton Stick, just as we predicted last Thursday night. I didn't realize just how bad, though, Austin Eckler was going to be on the ground and how little usage he was going to get. He got less than 20% of the running back carries last week. So the usage looking really bad for Eckler right now. Touchdown ceiling is all but wiped away in this offense. I'm benching Eckler for Puka and for Devontae Smith. I'm playing Olave over Puka. I would rank the wide receivers tonight. Cooper Kupp, number 1. Chris Olave, number 2. Puka Nacua, number 3. I like all 3 of them a decent amount, but I would play Olave over Puka Nacua. I think Puka's numbers for season-long averages are better. But Olave without Michael Thomas has been just so consistent. I mean, the floor is so solid for Chris Olave, and the ceiling, I don't think we've really seen the ceiling for Chris Olave yet this season. By the way, I did 150 best ball drafts this offseason. I got 1 team left, and Chris Olave is on that team, so I'm certainly rooting for him tonight. Hey, should I start Laporta or Goddard? Yeah, there's no bench in Laporta. I think this is close. It's close, but it's Laporta. Hey, Sam. We already got to this one. Pittman or Olave? Yeah, I'm not benching Pittman. I'm playing Pittman over most guys. Puka or Sutton? It's got to be Puka over Sutton. Sutton against the Pats is a little bit sketchy. A big dog Sam skipped. I got you, man. Xavier, I got you. Pick 3 PPR. Gibbs, Pollard, Higgins, Godwin, Devontae, Waddle, Garrett, Wilson. Not a Thursday night question here, but I still got you. You're starting Gibbs. I think you got to start Pollard. These receivers are really tough to decide between. I feel like Waddle's going to project the best. I wouldn't go with Devontae Smith. He hasn't been practicing with a knee injury. Garrett Wilson is good on paper, but who's throwing him the ball this week? I don't even know. I think the answer here is Jalen Waddle. I think I'd go Waddle. I'd go Waddle, Pollard, and Gibbs. And in a different league, we got Ayuk, Connor, Achane. I'm starting Achane this week. I feel pretty good about Achane in what should be a high-scoring game. Gibbs or Taylor? Oh, I do really want to start JT with no Zach Moss. Feels like the cards are lining up. The stars are aligning for Jonathan Taylor with no Zach Moss. But it's tough to project. I mean, he's dealing with a thumb injury. Is JT's receiving role going to be quite the same? That could have big implications. It's a tough projection. How much work are they really going to give him in his first game back? He's missed the last 3 games. He's practicing in full. I think I'd go JT over Gibbs, but it's a tough call. Diggs or Olave. I'm not benching Diggs. You got to start Diggs. Puka likely or Brown at flex. If that's AJ Brown, it's Brown. If that's a different Brown, then it's Puka. Garrett or Smith. Yeah, I think I'd go Garrett Wilson over Devontae Smith. Nico Collins or Palmer. Oh gosh, I think it's Nico over Palmer. Puka over Jacobs for sure. Got to start Puka tonight. If you have that decision. Zeke, Corinne, Pollard. You're starting Corinne Williams in 100% of situations. Pick 3 there. Yeah, you bench Zeke. Play Pollard. Play James Cook. Purdy or Kyler. I'd go Purdy over Kyler. All right, let's get back to some of these start sits in the YouTube live, in the TikTok live. Guys, shout out to everybody in this live stream. Hit the like button if you're watching live on YouTube. Smash the follow button if you're watching live on TikTok. We've been grinding every single Thursday night. 16 straight Thursday nights. We've been at it. We got one more left next week. Man, it's been a long season, but I'm amped for the playoffs. Hollywood or D-Hop? Hollywood Brown had a rough week last week, if I recall correctly. Yeah, I recalled correctly. I believe he dealt with an injury. Second straight DNP from Marquise Brown. Oh gosh. Re-injured. Not good. Not good for Marquise. You got to go D-Hop here over Marquise. Ayuk, Puka, or Rashee Rice. Merry Christmas, Sam. Merry Christmas to you as well, Glenn. I'm benching Ayuk there. I think I'd go Puka and Rashee. I think I'd go Puka over Ayuk. I feel like the Walters projection is probably going to disagree with me on this one too. And don't get me wrong, Ayuk's got massive ceiling. I just think the floor is a little bit safer. Walter disagrees with this. Let's take a look at Ayuk's numbers here against the Ravens. Oh, man, he's actually been incredibly consistent outside of last week versus Puka. Puka's been – yeah, I changed my answer here. I'd go Ayuk over Puka. I'm playing Ayuk over Puka, Glenn. And if you guys have tuned into my shows long enough, I change my opinions all the time. I think that is a good sign for an analyst to change opinions as you get more information. I'm looking at this comparison in the Walter Picks app right now. And it's Ayuk. It's Ayuk over Puka. Just over the last month and a half, Ayuk has actually had a better floor than Puka Nacua. Not like it's an amazing matchup here for Puka either. The Ravens are a tough matchup too, though. But yeah, I would go Ayuk over Puka Nacua. Saquon or Pollard. I think I'd probably go with Pollard. Saquon gets the Eagles. Yeah, it's Pollard. It's Pollard over Saquon. Olave. Adams, Puka, standard points. I'm definitely starting Olave here. Standard points, though, is good to know because that does definitely change a lot. And knowing your scoring settings is so critical. I do appreciate you guys letting me know. What are the scoring settings if you have start sit questions? Because it will change the answers. It's part of the reason the Walter Picks app is so overpowered for fantasy advice is it adjusts for your custom league settings. One of the hardest things to do. As an analyst, wow, this is so super close between Olave, Adams, and Puka Nacua. I'm honestly a bit surprised Puka wins this one. I think you go with the 2 guys tonight and you bench Davante Adams. I know Adams has had huge target shares. Hasn't really translated into huge games, though. We have not seen Davante Adams go over 20 fantasy points since week 3. Man, he had a brutal stretch. From week 5 to week 9, he was under 6 points in every game, despite significant targets. I mean, he's had some of the highest target shares in the league, and he ends the game with less than 10 points. These are just not quality targets for Adams. I would go Olave. I'd go Puka. I think they have, all have kind of comparable matchups, I would say. Puka or Devontae Smith? I'm going Puka over Devontae Smith, who has not been practicing yet this week. Bench Eckler for Warren or Chase Brown. Oh gosh, that's just such a gross decision. And no, I don't think I'd bench Eckler for Warren or Chase Brown. Like they're all similar. They all have pretty good receiving roles, but Eckler still has the best receiving role, especially with Keenan out. Dak or Stafford? Thanks for being a Walter Picks TikTok live subscriber, by the way, Keyshawn. It's Dak. It's Dak over Stafford easily. You got to start Dak this week for sure. I think he's the number one QB in the Walter Picks app right now. What's up, Sam? Hope you had a great week so far. You as well. Kyla, need the prop to tail. I'm also in my fantasy playoffs, but unfortunately everyone stopped trying my league, so pointless to win. I hate that. Hate that. Nothing worse than being in a league where people aren't trying. Nothing makes it feel like a bigger waste of time. You got to find the league where people will try next year. Find a different league. I do have a free player prop for us tonight. Of course, we just missed by like 5 yards the Devontae Smith prop last week. But let's pull up this game log here. I'll talk through this prop tonight. We are 24-11 now on the free player props this season. We've been cashing. And tonight we're going to cash on Tyler Higbee over 22.5 receiving yards. He's played on over 60% of the snaps every game this season. He actually had his lowest snap percentage of the year last week because he was coming off an injury. He missed week 14. So he comes back to ease him in, only play him 60% of the snaps. He only runs 18 routes. Only half of the passing plays was Higbee out there running a route last week. Still had 4 catches on 5 targets for 36 yards. They're setting this line at 22.5 when he is going to play more. He is going to play more than he played last week. The Saints have been horrible against tight ends. This is actually the second best matchup on paper of the season for Tyler Higbee. Let me read you some of these tight ends that have ripped off over 22.5 receiving yards against the New Orleans Saints. It's been their worst position. Last week, Darren Waller coming off the injury of over a month, 4 catches, 40 yards. 2 weeks before that, we saw Sam Laporte to rip off 9 catches for 140 yards. We saw Kyle Pitts go for 22 yards. We saw TJ Hawkinson go for 134 yards. Cole Kmet had 55 yards. Andrew Ogletree had 33 yards. Evan Ingram had 45. Schultz had 61. This is all in the last 2 months. We've seen 7 or 8 tight ends do this in the last 2 months. Tyler Higbee over 22.5 receiving yards is the prop of tonight. I can see him cashing this in the first half. As long as this game stays remotely close, Higbee's going over 22.5. And he's done it in 3 straight games. So yeah, Tyler Higbee over 22.5 receiving yards. That is the free player prop of the night. I'm going to restart the TikTok live. Got some lag on my end there. Let me do that right now. And then we'll get back to all right. Let's get back to some of these start sits. Hey, Sam, am I crazy to start both Hawkinson and Njoku this week? Other options are Brandon Cooks, London. You're not crazy. You're not crazy. You know what? I'm actually starting to turn around a little bit on my – I've had this take. I've leaned into this take, I think maybe for too long. Maybe I got to change with the times a little bit more because I've had the take for quite some time, maybe 2 years, maybe even 3 at this point. I hate starting 2 tight ends because tight ends have been so brutally bad for – it feels like so long, 2 or 3 years. It's just been like 2 or 3 tight ends you can trust, and everyone else is just complete garbage with a 0-point floor. It feels like that is starting to shift a little bit. And honestly, the tight ends have really picked up some steam as this season has gone on. Like David Njoku, Sam Laporte, Isaiah Likely, Trey McBride. These are guys I could see good arguments to start 2 of in some situations. And yeah, I'm fine starting Hawk and Njoku. I actually think we got Hawk a little bit too low here in the projections this week. But yeah, this is non-PPR. That's probably why. If I change this to PPR in the YouTube live. Yeah, I mean, they're both projected over 13 points. Like, that's a solid flex option there. I'm fine starting them over these guys, Cooks, London, Najee. Cooks probably has a higher ceiling than these 2, but the floor is probably lower. And Njoku is a really lead option at tight end. And Njoku, McBride, both really good options this week, in my opinion. Kupp or Gibbs in PPR. This is a close one for sure. I've got a feeling the app is going to say Gibbs. I kind of want to start Kupp here, though. Oh, gosh, it's close. It's not a great matchup for Jahmyr Gibbs. I would start Kupp. I would start Kupp over Gibbs. The ceiling is higher for Cooper Kupp tonight. I'd argue the floor is pretty comparable too. We've seen back-to-back 25-point games from Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp has ranked as a top 5 wide receiver in back-to-back weeks. I know Gibbs, no knocks against him either, really. I mean, he's been balling recently too. Not a great matchup for Gibbs. You could argue this isn't that bad of a matchup for Cooper Kupp. The Saints have been very good at defending outside wide receivers. That's where Puka Nacua plays most of the time. They have been less good at stopping inside receivers where Cooper Kupp can really thrive. Cooper Kupp's, he's played 150 snaps, 149 in his last 2 games. Like, he's back. He's fully healthy. He's seen 26 targets in his last 3 games. I mean, he's going to lead the team in targets, or at least be up there in the top 2. He's going to go over 20% target share. PPR league, I don't think you can be in the fantasy playoffs in a PPR league and bench Cooper Kupp in almost all situations. Like, there was one spot earlier in the live, I told someone to start Rachaad White and Kamara over him. I think that could make sense. But yeah, I'm starting Kupp over a guy like Gibbs. Puka, T, or JT PPR. I really want to start Jonathan Taylor this week. This has come from the guy who's been forcing Zach Moss into a starting lineup for 3 straight weeks. So maybe I'm just overcompensating for that. But JT comes back and it feels like the stars are aligning perfectly. There's no Zach Moss. He gets a pretty good matchup, I think, too. He gets the Titans. It's really not that great of a matchup. No, he doesn't get the Titans. Sorry, the Falcons. It's not that great of a matchup. I think I'd go Puka, then JT, then T. I think I'd rank it Puka, JT, then T Higgins. I would play Puka Nacua over T Higgins. I do think the floor is a bit better for Puka. I think they have similar ceilings. Stafford, Kyler, or Goff? Stafford, Kyler, or Goff? Oh, God. That's a close one, too. I think Kyler's going to rank the best. Jared Goff was the QB1 last week. It basically how best ball went down last week in the playoffs. If you had Goff, you advanced, or at least you had a chance. If you didn't have Goff or you didn't have Baker, you didn't advance. That's ultimately what it came down to. I luckily did have Goff on a few of my best ball squads. Kyler gets the best matchup on paper, but these are season-long numbers. The Bears defense has been much better of late. Goff gets the Vikings in Minnesota. I think that game has the highest over-under. The game tonight is a 45-point over-under. The Lions game has a 47.5 over-under, so that is the highest one. And I doubt the Cardinals are even close to that 43. I'd go Goff. I think I'd go Goff over Stafford and Kyler. Kyler at least has the rushing. He has been running. That is good for Kyler over these other 2 guys, especially depending on your scoring settings. Kyler's rushed at least 6 times in 4 of his 5 games so far this season. In the one game he didn't rush at least 6 times, he had a rushing touchdown. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns in 5 games. So he's got at least 15 points in 4 of his last 5. I still think that we saw the ceiling from Goff last week. I think that game, Goff could keep it going. I'd go Goff over Kyler and over Stafford for that reason. It's definitely a close call between those 3 guys, though. I would play Stafford over Baker. My God, do we go Denver D or Eagles D? Really good defensive options there. I really like the Denver defense against the Pats. I have Eckler, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Corinne Williams, and Devon Achane. Give me 3 wants opinions. Yes, so you got to bench Eckler here. Tucker Bold 6 and TikTok, bench Austin Eckler. Start Kenneth Walker over Eckler. Kenneth is dealing with a new shoulder injury all of a sudden, which is terrible because he looked great, man. He's projecting great. He looked great. He had 19 carries. He had 86 yards against the number 1 run defense in the NFL last week. That was the Eagles. Now he gets the Titans this week. But I think I'd bench him too here. I'm starting Alvin Kamara, Corinne Williams, and Achane over Walker and over Eckler. Bench Eckler, bench Walker. But definitely bench Eckler. Why start for Stafford? Yeah, so I got Stafford as a start just because he's been really good, like really, really good of late. I would play some guys that have been asked about over him. Stafford has at least 18 points in 4 straight games. He's gotten over at least 23 points in 3 of his last 4 games. 2 of those games were against really good defenses, the Browns defense and the Ravens defense. Those are the top 2 defenses against quarterbacks this year in terms of fantasy points allowed. And Stafford balled out against them. 23 points, 23.7 points. He's been throwing the ball really consistently. He's been over at least 7.2 yards per attempt in 3 straight games. He's at least 6.9 in 4 straight games. Guys, he has 12 touchdowns in the last month. Matthew Stafford. He's been one of the hottest quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think he's going to keep it going against the Saints. The Saints have been okay defensively this season. It's not like they're a bad defense, but I also don't think they're one to be super scared of. We've seen them allow the 6th fewest points per game to quarterbacks this season. But again, we saw Stafford go over 20 points against the Browns and the Ravens, who are definitely better defenses than the Saints. The last good quarterback the Saints have played was, if you want to put him in the good category, I think at the time he was, Josh Dobbs. And Jared Goff. Listen to the quarterbacks they played. Tommy DeVito, Bryce Young, Desmond Ridder. These are the last 4 quarterbacks the Saints have played, not even close to the same level playing field as Matthew Stafford. Jared Goff, when he played them, he had 16 points. Josh Dobbs, when he played them, he had 25. Tyson Bagent dropped 18 against the Saints. Gardner Minshew had 15. Listen to the quarterbacks that they're playing against. Trevor Lawrence had 18. Stroud had 15. Baker and Jordan Love both went over 20 earlier in the season. Bryce Young, Ryan Tannehill, they played basically terrible quarterbacks. And all the at least average or above average quarterbacks they played have scored at least 15 points. So the floor is solid for Stafford tonight. I think the ceiling he's shown is 25 plus with the receivers he has. JT or Olave? I'm going to Olave. I'm going to Olave over JT. Puka, Swift, HN, full PPR, pick 2, please. Also Hawkinson and McBride. I'm leaning toward McBride. Yeah, there's some tough tight end decisions this week. And that's part of the reason I think I'm going to change my tune a bit. And it's okay, I think, to start 2 tight ends in some of these spots. It's so tough to be benching Trey McBride. Some calling him Trey Gronkowski, which I love. But yeah, Trey McBride over Hawkinson, I think, does make sense. And then we got Swift, JT, HN, Puka. You're got to start Puka here, I think, in PPR. We got HN, who I also want to start, though. Jonathan Taylor ranks as RB15 now. I think I would start probably all 3 of these guys over Swift. Wow, Puka gets a slight edge out here in the projections. Let's see what we got here for. Yeah, Swift can be benched. So it's really the last 3 I was just comparing. Let me bring HN back in here. I do feel pretty good about HN this week. We got HN against the Dallas Cowboys, and back-to-back weeks, a little bit underwhelming here for HN. He's been at 12.1 and 9.2 points his last 2 games. But this is going to be a really high-scoring game, and the receiving role has been pretty elite for HN. He's over a 12% target share, 3 straight games, including 28% target share just 2 weeks ago. This game, I think, is the highest projected scoring game of the week. Yeah, 50-point over-under. By far the highest projected scoring game of the week is that Cowboys-Dolphins game. I do want a piece of that game. So I think you bench Puka. I think you go JT, you go HN. And then also Hawkinson. Yeah, I'm leaning McBride over Hawkinson too, but it's a tough call. I mean, Hawkinson has been great this season. Sup, Sam? How's your week? It's going great, Matt. It's going great, man. We got the holidays coming up. We got football in 3 or 4 the next, I think 3, right? We got Thursday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. 4 of the next 5 days. We got football. I mean, it's just a great time to be alive, great time of the year. And it's the best time of the year when you are in the fantasy playoffs. I'm 7 high-stakes leagues, guys. I'm still alive in 3 of them. Still alive in 3 of the 7 leagues, season-long leagues I'm in. My best ball team's not looking quite as well, quite as great. I got 11 teams, I think, left at this point. Sup, Sam? How's your week going? Please pick 2. Swift, Ford, Singletary, or HN Happy PR. Yeah, so HN, he's got to be started here. Swift, Ford, Singletary. Let's look at those 3 because I think it's between those 3. Half PPR makes me a little less excited about HN specifically because part of the reason I really like him is his receiving role. But I still think he needs to be started in that game that should be really high scoring between the Cowboys and the Eagles, while Singletary ranks as RB10. So I think Singletary is going to be the answer here. I know he's coming off a huge workload, a really impressive game for Singletary last week. Not only was it impressive, it was against a pretty good Titans run defense. I think this was the most rushing yards the Titans have given up all season. Let me just double fact check that. But Dameon Pierce active in this game too. Devin Singletary has this backfield to himself. He's going up against the Tennessee Titans last week. Yeah, this was the first 100-yard rushing game they had allowed since week 5, which they did allow more rushing yards in Zach Moss's game back in week 5 without JT in that one. But yeah, Devin Singletary, 121 yards, the second most rushing yards we've seen against the Titans this entire season. He plays on 75% of the snaps, and now he gets the Browns, and the Browns defense is not what the Browns defense was at other points of this season. They're still having a historically good defense this year, but we saw Roschon Johnson get 10 points last week. Travis Etienne, Quentin Williams, they did fine. Jaylen Warren had a big game against the Browns. This is all in the past 5 games. Samaje Perine, Javonte Williams, they combined over 20 points. So, yeah, I think I'd go Singletary here. Agree with Walter. I'd go Singletary and Achane. I'd bench Ford. I'd bench Swift. Both those guys, I think they have really low floors too. So I'm cool with that. Puka, Kupp, St. Brown, pick 2. Bench. You got to bench Puka. You got to start Kupp and St. Brown. Start the elite of the elite there for sure in the TikTok live. Monty, Achane, Ford, Zeke, Chandler. It's Achane. God, I think it's Chandler versus Monty versus Zeke. Let's see, do this one. Montgomery, Chandler. Oh, man, it's Chandler over Montgomery, and it's Ezekiel Elliott, who still ranks as RB11. We'll see if Mondre plays this week. He probably won't. The Broncos have been bad against running backs this season. He played 87% of the snaps, 16 touches for Zeke last week against a good Chiefs defense. This is half PPR too, though. If this is full PPR, maybe it probably only gives a boost to Zeke, I would guess. Yeah, it's Zeke. It's Zeke over Chandler. It's Zeke over Monty. Puka or Bijan? You got to go Puka at this point. It's another good matchup for Bijan on paper, but I don't know how you start Bijan after last week. Hey, Sam, Connor or Chandler, full PPR? Yeah, I think this one's Chandler. Yeah, it's Chandler. It's not that close. I think these are pretty comparable matchups. Look at the snap percentage. Man, for James Conner, 49%, 14 carries, 3 targets. And then you look at this role for Ty Chandler. Even if Madison's back, 81% snap share, 23 carries, 4 targets. You got to start Chandler over Conner. It's not even close. It's not that close. I got Bijan, JT, Singletary, Flowers. Need one running back and a flex full PPR. So you're starting JT, I think, over. Oh, God, I think it's JT over Bijan. I feel like the app in Walter is going to say Bijan. Is not. We got JT over Bijan also. But you probably start both of them here. Singletary projects better than both these guys. We got T. Higgins in here too. Oh, man. I think you go Singletary and JT. You bench Bijan. This is a tough call here in the semifinals. We're benching Bijan Robinson for Devin Singletary. Start Puka or DK. I would probably go with I think I'd go Puka over DK. DFS call for this game. Which star you biggest on? Yeah, it's Cooper Kupp. I'd say is the guy I'm most into in this game. Like the Stafford Kupp stack is probably what I'd be looking for on a single game DFS slate tonight. Cooper Kupp is all the way back, man. He's ran close to 70 routes. Sorry, 70 play. He's been out there for almost 70 snaps in his last 2 games. He's not missing snaps. I think 70 snaps per game, actually. He's been at like 150 snaps or something. Let me pull this up again. But yeah, I like Cooper Kupp the most, especially in the PPR formats on DFS. Yeah, he's ran 150 plays, Cooper Kupp, in his last 2 games. 149. Devontae Smith or DeAndre Hopkins? Oh, man. Ryan Tannehill, I think, is going to start this week for the Titans. I don't know if that changes all that much, though, on my Hopkins day. I would start Smith if he plays. There's a chance he doesn't play. Hey, Sam, I have DK Metcalf and Puka in wide receiver 1 and 2 and Sutton at flex. Should I make a substitution? I have Deontay, Amari Cooper on my bench, Chuba, Montgomery. Yeah, so Sutton is definitely going to be the odd man out here. I'd start Puka and Metcalf over Sutton tonight for sure. We got Chuba and Montgomery. Let me pull up, though. Amari Cooper is the one that is catching my eye here versus Sutton. Wow, it's super close in the app. We got Sutton a little bit ahead of Amari in full PPR. Amari gets the Texans this week. They have not been a great matchup for receivers. He's coming off a pretty good game. He's got 22 targets in his last 2 games, Amari Cooper. I don't feel great about him, though, in this game script without CJ Stroud starting. I think this Browns-Texans game could be pretty run-heavy. I'd start Rashee Rice over Achane. There's no benching Rashee Rice right now. I'd start Puka over Mondre. I don't even think Mondre is going to play, but it's possible. So I'd go Sutton over Amari. I would not change anything here. I would not sub Chuba for Montgomery either, no. Let me pull up the Chuba game log just to make sure I'm not overlooking him. But, yeah, 70% snap share, back-to-back games. Wow, look at these carry numbers. for Chuba Hubbard, maybe I am overlooking him just a little bit here. Let's actually do this comparison. Chuba Hubbard versus David Montgomery. Wow, Chuba Hubbard does get the edge here. This is full PPR. You didn't say. This is full PPR. You might have to go Chuba Hubbard. It's not a good spot either for Monty against the Vikings. Tough matchup there for him. He's been much better this season, of course. But this usage from Chuba Hubbard is pretty encouraging. 4 straight over 60%, 2 straight over 70%. These carry numbers, at least 14 and 4 straight. We know he's got a receiving role in this offense too. And the Packers have not been great against running backs. It's the best matchup he's had since he got this role for Chuba Hubbard. See, I think I would go Chuba over David Montgomery. Olave or Puka. It's Olave over Puka. I've ranked these receivers tonight. It goes Cooper Kupp number 1. Chris Olave number 2. Guys, Olave has been incredibly consistent this year. If you guys are just tuning in for the first time, guys, hit the follow button. If you're watching live on TikTok, if you're watching live on YouTube, guys, smash the like button. We're live on TikTok and YouTube like we have been for 16 straight Thursday night lives. Olave is about as safe as a bet as it gets tonight. Let me pull up the game logs here on the YouTube live. If you're watching live on TikTok, we're also live on YouTube. Link is right in the TikTok bio. It's a better viewing experience. I'm telling you, I can share my screen just easier than I can on the TikTok live. But we're looking at the Chris Olave game logs on the YouTube live right now. Chris Olave, listen to this. In his last full games, his last healthy games where he played at least 40% of the snaps, this is his last 5, 17 points, 21 points, 18 points, 17 points, 13 points in fantasy football. His floor tonight is 13 points. And I do not think we have seen the Chris Olave ceiling this whole season. Like, we have not seen his true ceiling. Chris Olave, let me read you some of these numbers because these are actually pretty mind-boggling. When you really start to dig deep into some of the peripheral numbers for Chris Olave, it's pretty incredible what you will find. Chris Olave has been off the charts in his usage this season, and it just has not come to fruition yet, usage-wise. Like boom game-wise. There's not a wide receiver with more unrealized air yards than Chris Olave this season. That means there's not a receiver that has had more air yards that were not actually caught in the NFL than Chris Olave. Over 1,000 air yards. This means the distance the ball traveled in the air before it reached Olave and he did not catch it. 1,000 of those yards exist this season. That is a good signal that we haven't seen the ceiling from Chris Olave, who, by the way, has the 4th most air yards in the entire NFL. He has the 2nd most deep targets in the NFL. Chris Olave is an elite deep receiver, and we have yet to see him have a huge receiving game. You look at the game log, man. Look at these air yards. 125 air yards per game for Chris Olave. This includes a game, just his last, a bunch of games where he was not fully healthy. We haven't even seen him get a 70% snap share in a game. There's only been 2 games where he went for at least a 70% snap share this season. No Michael Thomas tonight. It's him and Rashid Shaheed. The Rams have been okay. They've been a pretty good secondary, actually. But yeah, the usage is just locked in for Olave. I think the floor is an elite floor for Olave, and the ceiling's really high too. So I would go, but I still would go Cooper Kupp over him. So it's Kupp, then it's Olave, then it's Puka Nacua for fantasy tonight. I would go Corinne over Kamara, but I like both them a lot. Swift or Waddle in the flex. I would probably go Waddle. Good luck to everyone. Sleeper HQ, how's it going? Good luck to everyone in the semifinals for sure. Browning or Stafford? Some of these decisions here in the fantasy football semifinals, I'm out here telling people to start Devin Singletary over Bijan Robinson. I'm out here telling people to start Jake Browning over Patrick Mahomes last week. I mean, some of these decisions, you got to have some real guts to really make some of these calls. And let's pull up the QBs here because the QB decisions this week are difficult. We got Browning in the Walter Picks at ranked QB 9 this week, but without Jamar Chase, I don't feel nearly as good about Jake Browning. He's been good. He's had 3 straight games of at least 20 points. Steelers defense is crumbling right now, but without Jamar Chase, I'm a lot less excited about Browning. I would start Goff over Browning. I'd start Tua over Browning. I'd start Stafford over Browning. I'd start Mahomes over Browning this week. I would start Kyler, Brock Purdy over Browning. I'm starting Dak over everybody. I'm starting Kelsey over McBride. I do think it's actually pretty close, but you got to start Kelsey if you're in the playoffs. Stafford or Baker? Yeah, I'm going Stafford over Baker Mayfield. Hey Sam, happy playoff Thursday. Happy playoff Thursday to you as well, Alvin. Thanks for supporting these live streams all year. I really do appreciate it. Shout out to everybody, whether you're here for the first time or a long time. All right, pick one: Mostert, Javonte, Monty, or Zeke if Stevenson sits. It's Zeke. I think it's Zeke if Stevenson sits, but we don't know for sure Stevenson's going to sit. I think he will, but we don't know that for sure yet. And if he doesn't sit, I kind of think the answer here is Mostert. over Javonte, over Monty in what should be the highest scoring game of the week. Already starting Gibbs. A happy PR lastly. Bills defense or Packers defense? Start Jefferson over Devontae Adams, if that's the question here. The Bills defense versus the Packers defense. Yeah, so the Bills get the Chargers. That's a pretty good one. The Packers get the Panthers. They're 5-point favorites. The Bills are even bigger favorites than that. Yeah, you start the Bills. The Bills are 12.5-point favorites. They're the biggest favorites of the week. Easton Stick is bad. We called that one last Thursday night, but he's bad. This isn't even close. The Bills might be the best defense in fantasy this week. They have by far the biggest spread, at least. Carr or Mullen in PPR. Here we are. It's week 16. We're in the fantasy football playoffs. It's a competitive league, and we got to make a call between Derek Carr and Nick Mullins. Actually, one of my 7 high-stakes fantasy leagues, the one fantasy playoff matchup I lost, I had to start Nick Mullins last week because I had Stroud, I think, on that team. It's Carr over Mullins. As good as Mullins looked, as good as he did, he had 19 points last week, finished as a QB 11 on the week. He had 303 yards. Jefferson's back. Lions could be a shootout game here, but Derek Carr, I think, is the safer play for sure. He hasn't had any big games. He's been actually really, really frustrating. About 20 points last week, but under 12 and 4 straight. I expected him to be a little bit more consistent than this. I think it's Carr over Mullins. I don't think Mullins is good, even though he's got good weapons and a good matchup. All right, we got Sam. Please help. ETN, Corinne, Ayuk, Achane. Yeah, starting Corinne here. You're starting ETN, and Ayuk versus Achane is close, but it's probably Achane. And then another league, pick 3 PPR: Waddle, Gibbs, Higgins, Pollard, Sunday Live. Yeah, of course these are Sunday Live. Some of these are Sunday Lives. We'll get to that when we get there. But for now, I'd say you start Gibbs, you start Pollard, you start Waddle, and you bench Higgins. Higgins, Amari, Achane start 2. Higgins, Amari, and Achane. God, I want to bench Higgins again here. Amari has 22 targets in his last 2 games. Amari's going to get more targets than Higgins. But if Chase is out, though, too. I keep forgetting that Chase is not playing, and that really changes the math a lot for Higgins. I think it's Higgins and Achane. I'll go Higgins and Achane. James, man, how we doing? Thanks for tuning in on this beautiful Thursday night. Keep it up. Appreciate it. Standard. I get the most insane amount of spam calls. You guys would not believe. Waddle, Cup, Puka, or start all and sit Bijan, ETN. I would bench Bijan. I'm benching Bijan for all 3 of these guys. Bijan could have a huge week. He has a good matchup this week. He's coming off he scored less than 1 point, guys, last week. I mean, it's just mind-boggling game from Bijan. 0.4 points against the Panthers. He had 1.6 yards per carry. Now he gets a good spot against the Colts. The target share was at least there. He only had 1 catch for 3 yards, though. I mean, he ran ultimately bad last week. I'd start ETN over him. I'd start Singletary over him. I'd start Cup and Puka over him. I'd start Waddle over him, too. I would start Cup and Puka, though, over Waddle. I think I'd start Singletary over Waddle, too. It's close, man. But with Tyreek back, Waddle's not going to be what he was last week. Tyreek or Puka, do not bench Tyreek Hill. Do not bench Tyreek Hill in the fantasy football playoffs. Waller or Isaiah Likely. Yeah, this is one of the tougher decisions. I had to make this exact same decision in one of my leagues last week, and I went with Likely. It ended up being fine. I think as the weeks go on here, though, I'm going to be more and more compelled by Darren Waller as being a very, very solid tight end option. I think you got to go Likely here this week, but I think it's really close here between Waller and Likely, honestly, and I wouldn't knock you for going Waller. I think Waller does have an interesting ceiling against the Eagles in a game that should be high scoring. The Eagles will crush the Giants in this one. Eagles have not been great against tight ends. The 49ers have, but Likely's in that Mark Andrews role, which is why I think I would lean Likely personally. Rice or Cup? Yeah, it's Cup. It's Cup over Rice. Start Cup. Start Cup. You're in the fantasy football playoffs. You're 1 win away from the fantasy football finals. That's what we're talking about here, guys. That is what gets me amped all year round is this time of year. You're 1 win away. Start Cooper Kupp. Start Kyren Williams. Start Alvin Kamara. Start Chris Olave if you can. Start Puka Nacua after all those guys. And I think Stafford's a fine deep play tonight as well. Guys, I really think you need to bench tonight. And by the way, we'll be live Sunday morning, as always, this week from about the time I wake up until about the time we kick off. I'm live Sunday morning, so I'm going to prioritize the Thursday night start sits here tonight, as I have done for 16 straight Thursday nights. So again, we'll run it from the top here. There's no better player to play tonight than Williams. There's an argument that Kyren Williams has the best usage of any running back in the NFL. Better than Christian McCaffrey. I am ranked number 2 behind McCaffrey. I'm still starting CMC over him, but that's literally it. I mean, this dude has over 50 carries in his last 2 games, plus 11 targets. He's got over 60 opportunities in his last 2 games, and he's been balling with those touches. He had 25 points last week. He's gotten over 20 points now in 4 of his last 5 games. He's not gotten under 14 points since week 5. And yeah, he was injured for a decent amount of that span, but start Kyren Williams. You're also going to want to start Cooper Kupp. I know they're on the same team. Cooper Kupp's all the way back, and there's nothing more excited than all the way back Cooper Kupp. He's had at least 97% snap share in 3 straight games. He's going to be out there every single snap. He is fully healthy. The dude has played 149 snaps in just the last 2 games. So yes, you're starting Cooper Kupp over Joe Mixon. You're starting Cooper Kupp over basically everyone. You're starting him over Jalen Waddle. Let me read you the only receivers I would start ahead of Cooper Kupp. You're starting Tyreek Hill over him. You're starting CeeDee Lamb over him. A.J. Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson, I'd start over him. Deebo Samuel, I think you got an argument for. I'd start Steph Diggs. I'm not starting Rashee Rice over Cooper Kupp. I'm not doing that. I'm not starting Mike Evans over Cooper Kupp. I'm not starting DeAndre Hopkins, DJ Moore, Jalen Waddle, Javonte Adams, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman, Brandon Ayuk. I'm starting none of those guys over Cooper Kupp, who I think is all the way back, who I think back in draft season, I know it was a long time ago, there was a real argument prior to his injury that Cooper Kupp should have been the first overall pick. Guys, in the last 2 years, rewind to the fully healthy Cooper Kupps we've experienced in the past, he averaged the most points per game in PPR at the wide receiver position for 2 straight years. Last year and the year before that, he averaged the most points per game. That was more than Justin Jefferson, more than Jamar Chase, more than Tyreek Hill. And now we got an all the way back Cooper Kupp, and you're going to think about benching him in the fantasy football playoffs. Please do not do that. Puka Nacua, he's a good option too, but I actually like Chris Olave more than him tonight. Olave's been extremely consistent. Olave ranks number 4 in the NFL in air yards. One of my favorite metrics to track in terms of the volume and the value of the volume. It is a more descriptive volume measure than targets because it accounts for how deep those targets are, which matters for fantasy football. And Olave is getting deep targets at the 2nd highest rate in the league. He is number 2 in the NFL in targets that go beyond 20 yards. And he has caught not nearly as many of those as you'd expect. He leads the NFL in unrealized air yards. He's 1,000 yards in the air that Chris Olave has not been able to realize, that he did not catch. The ball has traveled over 1,000 yards. That's 10 football fields to Chris Olave this season, where the ball then ended up hitting the ground and led to no fantasy points. That is a sign of a guy who has a much higher ceiling than people realize. I'm starting Cooper Kupp over Olave tonight, but I'm starting Olave over Puka Nacua, and I really would compel you to start Olave in a lot of situations. I would probably start Rashee Rice over Olave. I'd start DJ Moore over him. I'd start Pittman over him. I don't think I'd start Devontae Smith over Olave, though. I don't think I'd start Brandon Ayuk over Olave. Pittman, I probably would. Metcalf is close, but probably not. I'd probably go Olave over Metcalf. I'd start Olave over Devontae Adams. I think I'd play Olave over Jalen Waddle, too. I'd play him over DeAndre Hopkins. I think I might even play him over Mike Evans. So yeah, start Olave. I'm starting Olave over Puka. And then at the running back position, I want to start Kamara tonight for sure. The Saints are actually, this was really shocking when I saw this. This was actually from Sharp Analysis Football, to cite my sources here. But we got the only team in the NFL without a running back to have a carry over 20 yards playing tonight. They are the only team. All 31 other teams in the NFL have a running back who has had a carry over 20 yards, except for the New Orleans Saints. They're the only one that has not had a running back have a carry over 20 yards. Where have the big plays been from Alvin Kamara this season? We really have not seen many. Do we see one tonight? Whether or not we do, though, he's locked in, high-end, high-floor, running back 1 in fantasy. He should be starting in PPR leagues. We have not seen a game under 10 points for Alvin Kamara the entire season in PPR. This is why Alvin Kamara was one of the biggest steals of the fantasy football draft season. We knew it at the time. It's even more clear now. He is an elite PPR option. He has been for the past 6 years. That has not changed at all. This year, he's going to get to 4 catches. I think his over-under is like right around 3.5, 4.5. He's number 1. He leads all running backs in targets. The dude missed the first 3 games, and he still has the most total targets at the running back position. He leads the entire NFL in target share. By the way, he's been top 4 in target share, Alvin Kamara, at the running back position for now 5 straight seasons. I think it might even be 6. Got to make a video about this because I made plenty of videos about this draft season. But yeah, meanwhile, Alvin Kamara, number 1 in the NFL in receptions at the running back position, number 1 in the NFL in targets, number 1 in the NFL in target share. Why bench Taysom Hill? Because the floor for Taysom Hill is 0 points. The floor for Taysom Hill is close to 0 points. Let me list you some tight ends I'd start over Taysom Hill. Don't get me wrong. Taysom Hill has a ceiling tonight, but the floor is low, and I mean very, very low. I think the ceiling's there. Let me go to the tight end list here. Certainly the ceiling's there because there's just not other tight ends that get red zone carries and red zone passing attempts. You just don't see that at all. But we got Taysom Hill. He ranks, tight end 17 in the app. I would start Taysom Hill. Gosh, I would start Waller, Goddard. I'd start Everett. Hunter Henry, we'll see if he plays. I'd start Everett over Taysom Hill. Kincaid, I would start over Taysom Hill. Dalton Schultz, if he plays, I'm not actually sure about that one. I don't feel great about him without Stroud. Komet, I would start over Taysom Hill. Kittle, Ingram, Likely, Hawkinson, Laporta, Ferguson, McBride, and Njoku, Kelsey. All these guys are better than Taysom Hill. Then I'd probably go Taysom Hill. I'd start Taysom Hill over guys like Tyler Conklin. I'd start him over Tyler Higbee, even though I like the Tyler Higbee prop tonight, over 22.5 receiving yards. That's the free player prop of the live stream. We are 21-11 on the free player props this season. Tyler Higbee over 22.5 receiving yards is the one I like tonight. James Conner or Zeke. Yeah, I like Zeke a little bit more. Puka or Devontae Smith. It's Puka over Devontae Smith for sure. I do like Puka a decent amount. Tonight, Kupp versus Amon-Ra. It's Amon-Ra. The only receivers I'm starting over Cooper Kupp: Tyreek Hill, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Justin Jefferson. That's it. Then it's Cooper Kupp. Then I'd probably slide in Deebo Samuel right after Kupp. I maybe would consider Diggs and Deebo over Kupp, but that's it. And the list. I'm not starting very many guys over Cooper Kupp at all. I'm playing Taysom over Tucker Kraft, 100%. Kraft has 0 ceiling. I'm willing to risk a guy with 0 floor if he has some ceiling, because Kraft has a 0-point floor too at tight end. Taysom Hill has a 0-point floor. Kincaid did have 0 points last week, so you could argue he's got a 0-point floor. I think he got hurt though. Yeah, he only played 53% of the snaps. I've had big concerns about Kincaid with Dawson Knox looming return for a while. He's back now, and it has been impacting Kincaid. He also, got hurt last week, limited in practice, his shoulder injury. I'm fine starting Taysom over Kincaid, but I think that's like right around where the line is. I'm not starting Taysom over Nico, no. Yeah, Derek Carr probably does throw over 150 yards. Puka over Amari Cooper for sure. Puka over Metcalf for sure. That one's actually pretty close. Let's see what Walter says about that one. Oh, it's going to be Metcalf over Puka, isn't it? Yeah, it's Metcalf over Puka. Oh, he gets the Titans. Yeah, it's a better matchup here for Metcalf than it is for Puka Nacua. I'm playing Olave over Ayuk. I am. I think the floor is higher for Olave, and I think the ceiling is similar for Olave as it is to Ayuk. And I guess we'll end on this point because we are about to wrap up the live stream. I do have to run. We will be live, of course, Sunday morning from the time I wake up till the time it kicks off for the 16th straight Sunday in a row to make sure we're locked in for the playoffs. So a lot of these are Sunday questions. I wanted to do, what was it? Puka Nacua, Mike Evans. Yeah, I think I'd go Mike Evans over Puka Nacua. I think I'd go Metcalf over Puka Nacua too. Yeah, I'd start Mike Evans and Metcalf over Puka Nacua. I do like Nacua tonight. I would start Nacua over a guy like Devontae Smith, for example. I'm starting Diggs over Puka for sure. I'm starting Diggs over Puka. Odell, Thielen, or Palmer. Probably Palmer. I'm not starting Thielen in the playoffs. Evans is the best match. Yeah, the matchups for Metcalf and Evans are much better than Puka's matchup tonight. The Saints have been better against outside receivers than inside receivers. But Puka Nacua is an outside receiver. So that's not great news for Puka. I still think he's a fine start. Ty Chandler or James Conner? I'd go Ty Chandler. Ty Chandler or Chuba Hubbard with crying faces. I don't think that's as bad of a decision as you think it is. Both guys have actually been getting a good usage of late. Kamara's a great option for sure. You got to start Cooper Kupp tonight. You got to start Kyren Williams tonight. You got to start Alvin Kamara tonight. Those are the 3 non-negotiable starts. I think there's maybe been one. I've been live for over an hour. There's been one question where I said to bench Cooper Kupp, and that's because they had Alvin Kamara and Rachaad White. You're starting Cooper Kupp. You're starting Kyren. You're starting Kamara. Don't overthink that. I think you really should start Olave too. Olave's been incredibly consistent. He is number 4 in the NFL in air yards. There's no Michael Thomas. They're underdogs in this game. It's going to be in a dome or half dome. No weather concerns in this one. And I just don't think we've seen the ceiling game from Olave yet. We haven't seen a game where he went over 20, had at least 25 points. His whole career, we haven't seen a game where he went over for at least 25 points. I think that's going to come eventually. Okay, we got down 30. Other guys, CMC and Corinne. I'm down bad, Sam. Yeah, that's tough. I don't know how you're already down 30, but that's tough. Do I start Jerome Ford, Warren, or London? It's probably Ford. It's probably Ford there. Puka or Wilson? I assume that's Garrett Wilson. That's pretty close, actually. In the matchup on, like, I really want to be in on Garrett Wilson. I want to be in on Garrett Wilson versus the Commanders. Like, this is a dream spot for Garrett Wilson in the fantasy football playoffs. Garrett Wilson, by the way, who's number 2 or number 3 in target share this season. Like, Garrett Wilson is leading in some really, really critical usage stats. I'm pulling it up right now on my screen, but we'll wrap up on this thought between Puka and Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson is the 6th most targets in the league. He has run the most, no receivers run more routes than Garrett Wilson. And he has the 6th highest target share, 30.5% target share for Garrett Wilson. I think his red zone target share might actually lead the NFL. But who's quarterback for the Jets this week? I mean, it's just a brutal. I think I'd go Puka over Garrett Wilson for that reason. But man, the matchup's better for Garrett Wilson. I mean, the usage honestly has been better for Garrett Wilson. It's just like, does he have a real quarterback? No, he doesn't. He just doesn't. And that like, he's going down with the ship, sort of. So I'm out with Garrett Wilson over Puka. Goff or Stafford? Yeah, I'm going Goff over Stafford. Goff was tight at QB1 last week. I'm playing Taysom Hill over Kraft. We got some Saturday questions here. He's still playing Pollard, Gibbs, and Waddle over Higgins without Chase. Yeah, I think I'd go Higgins over Waddle. Without Chase. I think that's reasonable, especially with Tyreek being back. I would not start Higgins over Pollard or Gibbs, though. And I do still think there's like a little bit of a scary floor there for Higgins. Yeah, this one's Achane and Puka. I'm playing Achane and Puka over Bijan. Waddle, Kupo. Yeah, I'm starting Kupp and Puka over Waddle. Or you just bench Bijan. I'm fine with benching Bijan too. After his less than 1 point performance. Matt Brooks, man, how's it going? Last league I'm alive in. Puka, Ridley, or Godwin. This is not an easy one, Matt. We're going to end on this one because I do have to run. Shout out to everyone in this live, by the way. Guys, the best way you can possibly support me, I know, Matt, I appreciate your support for quite some time now, is checking out the Walter Picks app. It is not only useful for the fantasy season, but if you're in the fantasy playoffs, like, you're at a disadvantage if you aren't using the Walter Picks app. It's free. It's in the TikTok bio. It's in the YouTube description. But also, we're launching tons of new player prop insights and tools in the Walter Picks app, tons of new DFS tools. We got a March Madness tool coming for March Madness season. Check out the Walter Picks app. It's free. It's the best way you can support me, in the TikTok bio, in the YouTube description. All right, Matt, let's get to this comparison. We got Puka. We already got him. Ridley. And we got Godwin. I mean, I called this 2 weeks ago. I'll give myself a little pat on the back for this one. Obviously, I'll eat the L's as they come. I'll eat plenty of L's. Have eaten tons of L's this season. This was a W for me, though. 2 weeks ago, just buying into the narrative that the complaining was going to work for Chris Godwin and his significant other complaining, and it's worked. It worked. The target volume went from around the 20% range to 38% and 44% target shares in back-to-back games. Now, will that stay consistent? I think it probably will. I think Godwin has a pretty high floor with this volume. Good spot here against the Jags. This is the best matchup Godwin's had since week 3. And he scored only 1 touchdown this season. He had 1 rushing touchdown, so 2 total touchdowns for Godwin. I think he's due for a TD here too. Man, I think the floor is going to be best. Yeah, the floor is the best for Godwin. The ceiling's the best for Ridley. But without Trevor Lawrence playing, no thanks, man. No thanks to Calvin Ridley. This is a good matchup too. I probably would say Ridley if Trevor Lawrence was in. I actually do think this projection has Trevor Lawrence in right now. Oh, man, Puka is really close to Ridley here too. I would definitely say Puka has a higher ceiling than Godwin. I think I'm going Godwin, though. I think I'd go Godwin over Puka. Really close call, obviously, as you can see between these 3 guys. All 3 good options. But yeah, I'm going Godwin over Puka. In PPR for the floor. I think they have similar ceilings, honestly, with the comment about Godwin only scoring 2 touchdowns. Like he's due for a touchdown for sure. So I'd go Godwin over Puka. I'm playing Rice over Puka as well. Seeing some questions about that. I'm playing Olave over Rice and Puka, though. I'm not benching Olave. with no Michael Thomas, with being the number 4 in air yards in the NFL. He doesn't go under 13 points. Like, the floor is there, and I think the ceiling is there too for Olave. That's my time, guys. Time's the most valuable thing we have. Thanks for spending some time with me tonight. If you didn't catch it, the free player prop of the day, it is Tyler Higbee over 22.5 receiving yards. We are 24 and 11 so far this season on the free player props. We have been cashing left and right. It's Higbee over 22.5 tonight. He's hit this in 3 straight. The Saints have been horrible against tight ends. So many tight ends have done this over the last 2 months. Higbee's going to do it tonight. Guys, have a great night. Good luck, everybody. I'll be back live, as always, Sunday morning. I'll see you there. Good luck tonight, everybody.